All right, we are going to start the last session of today's program. To do that, we will say Sadhu and salute the Blessed One. Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. Honor to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Honor to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Honor to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. There are, O monks, these three feelings: pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. Disciple of the Buddha, mindful, clearly comprehending, with his mind collected. He knows the feelings and their origin, knows where they cease, and knows the path that to the ending of feelings lead. And when the end of feelings has reached, such a monk, his thirsting quenched, attains Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. This is a section, or rather the full discourse, which I have picked up from Sutta Pitaka. And that discourse is called Samadhi Sutta. From my memory, it is in Anguttara Nikaya, or numerical discourses. I may be wrong, so it's either in numerical or connected discourses. However, the name of the sutta is Samadhi Sutta. Dear faithful Dhamma friends, today is the first day of this Brisbane April mindfulness workshop. And this period, starting from today, is a long weekend where we celebrate Anzac Day. During this period, it is very hard to find people to do a program like this, because they make use of this period to sensual enjoyment, entertainment. So therefore, those who have gathered here are a special group of people. Despite they have all the opportunities and the strength and the energy to go and have sensual enjoyment, they have selected otherwise. They, to me, have, to a certain extent, or to a great extent, completed their sensual enjoyment. And in some corner of their mind, they know that there is something beyond sensual enjoyment. So therefore, before I start the discussion, I should remind you that this group is a special group who think beyond the ordinary man's mind, beyond the normal way of thinking. So with that encouragement, I would like to get on to the subject. The particular discourse is talking about feelings. And before we go any further on the subject about the discourse, we will first try to understand the feeling, the word feeling. In Pali, we call it Vedana. When we hear the word Vedana, especially in our language, in Sri Lanka, in Sinhala language, it is very misleading. The perception in the Sri Lankan society for Vedana is one-sided. We call only painful feelings as Vedana. But so far as Buddha is concerned, feelings or Vedana is not just painful, it has a huge range, starting from the highest happiness to the worst painful feeling. So that entire range is the feelings, so far as the Blessed One is concerned. So Vedana is, or the feelings is the gateway to the mind. Why I say so is because Vedana is our mental input towards the physical manifestations. Physical manifestations happens in our body. They happen through the basic physical elements. As you know, our body is made of earth element, air element, water element, and fire element, basically. These elements are having their own characteristics, their own nature. So far as earth element is concerned, it has the heaviness and lightness, it has the roughness and the softness, it has the character. In fire element, you have the heat and cold. In water element, you have the flowing nature and the cohesiveness. And in the air, you have the holding nature and the moving nature, right? So these are the characteristics of these basic elements. And when these basic elements appear in our body, for some elements, or some combinations of elements we like, and for other elements or other characteristics of elements or their combinations, we don't like. So therefore, it is the gateway that liking and disliking makes the feeling. And therefore, we call some of the manifestations, physical manifestations, as pleasant, and the others are unpleasant. So therefore, basically, so far as this discourse is concerned, Buddha is talking about three types of feelings. They are pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant feelings. Although he is giving only three here, the Blessed One has, in certain discourses, he has divided this into 108. He has, in some places, he has explained this as 2, some places 3, some places 6, some places 12, and some places 18, 36, and 108 ways of explaining feelings. So, whatever it is, in these three types of feelings, everything is covered. So, if you see the pleasant feelings, you take the pleasant feelings is having its own literal meaning, which means if there is something that is gratifying, if there is something that makes you happy, and if there is something that you can agree, if there is something that is pleasurable, then you call it pleasant feeling. And so far as the painful feelings are concerned, it is the other way around. When it is unpleasant, and the resentment is there, when it is disagreeable and make you unhappy, then it becomes a painful feeling. And this is a very interesting scenario so far as neither painful nor pleasant feelings are concerned. Because this is something people don't know, don't talk about, right? So, but so far as the Blessed One is concerned, it exists, and it's very important as well. And we call it neither painful nor pleasant feelings, or in Pali you call it adukkama sukha. And when it comes to adukkama sukha, when you feel lethargy, when you feel bored, and if you feel gloomy and miserable, that is a sign of neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So those are the three main types of feelings. And one may wonder why I have selected this particular discourse. The reason to select this discourse is because it is very important in understanding the Dhamma. It is very important in reaching the final liberation. And if I explain bit in bit more detail, what we do here is we try to be mindful. And when we are mindful, what we basically do is we try to take our attention to the body. We take our attention to the lower part of the body while walking, and we take our attention to the upper part of the body while sitting. So when you do that, either from the lower part of the body or upper part of the body, we are diverting the attention of the mind from outward to inward, from extrovert to introvert. So when that happens, the mind meets its real home. Usually our mind is always outside, looking at things, hearing things, tasting things, smelling things. So everything that comes from outside is what the mind is worried about. Now, when you try to be mindful using these two techniques, which are walking and sitting, we, to a certain extent, come out of those sensual worlds, sense faculties, and try to be with us, with our body. So when that happens, when the mind comes to the body, as I mentioned earlier, you may see the characteristics. You may see that the basic elements with which your body is made are at work, right? So when you see these basic elements of the body, you will naturally feel heaviness, you will naturally feel lightness, you will naturally feel roughness, you will naturally feel pleasantness, you will naturally feel softness and heat, cold, and you may feel that within your body you are being ground, and you may feel floating, you may feel levitating. So a lot of things, not that you levitate, you may feel those. So all these things are the characteristics of your physical body. And for some of these characteristics, you may have your own input, which we call the attitude, or which we call the mental interaction with the physical phenomena. So that mental interaction with the physical phenomena creates the feeling. That liking and disliking creates the feeling. So therefore, in the Dart discourse, the Blessed One says, feeling happens only when a dart is hit onto the same place where there is already another dart. So which means our physical manifestations are already there. But when the mental input comes into that, then only the feelings happen. So therefore, the manifestations are there, and when the mental connections, when the mental interactions happens, then the mind is open. So this is why I said this is the gateway to the mind through observation of the body. So we observe the body just to go into deeper layers of the mind. So this is how we start going into the deeper layers of the mind. This is the just, we are tapping the door. We are just opening the door of the mind. So therefore, I have selected this particular discourse since through the practice, by being mindful, we try to tame our mind. We try to observe our mind. We try to understand our mind. We try to go beyond our mind. And supporting that, there is a discourse called Kim Mulaka. In that discourse, the Blessed One says, Vedana samosarana sabbe dhamma, which means the feelings, every phenomena is taking the feelings as their refuge, right? So any phenomena will be represented, will be manifested by way of a feeling. So therefore, may it be lay life, may it be ordained life, may it be worldly life, may it be spiritual life, any phenomena will have some sort of a feeling. And therefore, Vedana is, the feelings is the refuge for all the phenomena. So, in that regard, we will have to, even in the spiritual world, we will be able to see our progress. We will be able to gauge our progress by what we observe in the practice. And when you observe your practice, when you provide your report, we had a discussion in the afternoon and before this session. And then most of the things that you talk are the feelings that you had, because there is no way that you will be able to provide your report without talking about your feelings. It may be physical feelings or it may be mental feelings. That is because anything that happens within physical and mental processes of a person can be translated into words through feelings only. So therefore, in Kim Mulaka discourse, the Blessed One says, Vedana samosarana sabbe dhamma. And therefore, I have taken that also as a reason why talking about feelings is more important in this discourse, or rather in this retreat. And there is another very important reason why we should discuss Vedana or the feelings. That reason is, we all know, Blessed One has found that existence of any living being is a cycle. And that cycle is called the dependent origination. We are being every fraction of a second depending on certain things. In other words, Blessed One says there is a cause and effect relationship which incessantly happening within our existence, and that governs our existence, entire existence, up to death and after. So in other words, we have a birth and death cycle, which we call dependent origination. That birth and death cycle is not just the gross birth that we know and the gross death that we know. There are within that main two events, all the time we are physically born and we are physically dying. And all the time we are mentally born, mentally dying. So therefore it is, there are millions and billions of birth and death within the main intangible, visible birth and death. So, leaving that aside, that entire cycle is called dependent origination. And the dependent origination, Blessed One has clearly mentioned 12 stages. Those stages are first, ignorance is leading to fabrication. Fabrication is leading to consciousness. Consciousness leads to name and form. Name and form leads to 6 sense bases, which leads to contact. That leads to feeling. Feeling leads to craving. Craving being the reason, you will have clinging. Clinging becomes the reason for the becoming to take place. And becoming leads to birth. Birth leads to aging, sickness, death, which we basically call suffering or dukkha. So these are the 12 stages that that happens within one's existence in the cycle of birth and death. So in these 12 points, 12 stages, there is an important stage that talked about feeling. And that stage is, the Blessed One is saying, what creates, what gives birth to feelings. Feelings is a result of contact. Right? And because of contact, feelings takes place. And because of feelings, craving takes place. So therefore, if we take this particular 3 aspects, 3 parts of the dependent origination, which is contact leads to feelings, feelings leads to craving, then we can handle, we can control, we can manage craving. To manage craving, because of the craving only the clinging happens, because of the clinging only becoming happens, because of becoming birth happens. So therefore that cycle can be stopped if we can handle this gateway to the mind, which is feeling. So to do that, to handle cravings, we will have to handle feelings. To handle feelings, we will have to handle contact. So therefore, when the Blessed One is, when the Blessed One introduced mindfulness, he introduced mindfulness in such a way that we handle these 3 things. So therefore, what he said was, in the 4 foundations of mindfulness discourse, when you are ready to be mindful, when you want to come into the spiritual practice, he says, go to a forest, go under a tree, or go to an empty hut, sit cross-legged, and have your body upright. And keeping that upright body, straight body, erect body as the focal point, and bring your mindfulness to that, and keep the mindfulness to the fore. Have the mindfulness in the driving seat. To have the mindfulness in the driving seat, you use your body. So if I talk that in terms of our practice, the techniques we are using the walking technique, right? Even there you keep your body upright, and you keep your attention to the body. So the mindfulness to the body. So still the technique is there. So while walking, what we do is either we try to bring our attention to the walking process, or we try to bring our attention to the sole of the feet. And usually we know that we are walking only when the sole of because of the movement of the sole of the feet and because of the contact we have with the sole of the feet, right? So people say, while walking, I am observing my right foot, I am observing my left foot. And when I am observing my right foot, I observe I'm placing my right foot in this manner. And I'm placing my left foot in this manner. What does that mean is that without our knowledge, Blessed One is trying to teach us the contact. Contact means the contact that our internal faculties have with the external world and knowing of that. For the contact to happen, there are three factors. And those three factors are internal sense bases and external sense objects and the meeting of the two. So when we walk, our internal sense object is our skin on the sole of the feet, which we call the body. And the external object is the ground or the floor or the surface on which you walk. And when the two meet, you are aware of it. And that is the contact. And when you have that contact, now you are giving details of that contact. My right foot, I am observing this way. My right foot, my left foot, I am observing this way. So when you observe in that manner, you are talking about maybe shapes and manners of how you place your right foot and the left foot. And then the teachers would say, that is very good. You have got the hang of it. Now, what you will have to do is, you will have to see what you actually feel, because now Blessed One wanted us to learn initially the contact. Now you have learned the contact. Your attention is at the contact point in the dependent origination, right? So once you are there, then the Blessed One is diverting your attention using that contact to see how you feel. So therefore the teachers would ask, that's fine, you know the shape and the manner. Now can you tell me, when you place your right foot, what you actually feel? Whether you feel the coldness or the warmth, whether you feel the roughness or the softness, or whether you feel anything else, whether you feel heaviness sometimes or lightness. I don't know. You're walking. When you walk, you may have the feel. Whatever that you feel, just tell me how you feel it. Then this person practicing will use that contact to see when he is placing the leg, what he actually feels. He says, okay, I'm feeling coldness. And he will say, no, I'm feeling warm. No, he says, I don't feel anything on the sole of the feet, but I feel when I'm moving my leg is very heavy, like. And I feel like my leg is like an elephant leg. So he starts talking about what he feels, right? So then what we have done is, what the Blessed One has done is, use that ability to know the contact to go a bit more into the physical manifestation, and then get your attention to the manifestations of the basic elements, coldness and softness and heaviness and things like that are the manifestations of the physical elements. And then what the teachers would do is, okay, then you see how many steps you can walk feeling like that. Or teachers may ask you to see whether this coldness or the warmth is in your leg, or is it outside? Maybe you feel coldness because the tile is cold. So therefore, that means your leg is warm. Try to see a bit more whether your leg is cold or leg is warm, right? So then his attention comes more into the body. And then when the attention comes more into the body, teachers will ask, okay, now you are talking only about the sole of the feet. See whether you feel it on the upper foot as well. See whether you feel it in the ankle as well. So see whether you feel it any part there after the ankle on the calf, right? So like that, the teachers will encourage the practitioners to go more into the body. And by going more into the body, you will see more physical manifestations in your body. When these physical manifestations come, then you will say, okay, it is, I feel I'm feeling more and more coldness in my muscles, but sometimes it is unbearable. Sometimes it is giving me a big shock right through the left leg, right through the right leg. And then they start, when the mind comes into the body in that manner, when the teachers encourages the practitioners to take their mind into the body, what happens is those physical manifestations will start talking what your mind is having. Will start talking about what your mind is having about those manifestations. So then you will start saying it is very difficult and I don't like it. And is there a way to get rid of it? And things like that. Then the real feelings we are talking. Then what happens is, from the contact point, Blessed One has brought our attention to the basic elements of the physical manifestations, and then continuation of the practice. Those physical manifestations may amplify. That amplifications may lead for your mind to get open, and then you will talking about the feelings. When this happens, when the feelings manifest, when the mind starts talking about these physical manifestations, that is a sign of craving. What you will say is, if it is a pleasant one that you have had, you will ask, it was happening in the last week, why it is not happening now, which is a craving. Or you will see the other side of the craving, and it is happening, it is so unbearable. How can I avoid it? Say while walking, maybe you may feel that your ankle is painful, which was not the case before practicing your mindful walking, or your knee is painful, right? And it is unbearable, right? So that is, you will ask what to do. Or sometimes some of you may not tell anybody. You will go and apply all these balms and creams and all lotions possible to get rid of it, which is also a sign of prayer. But what the Blessed One said at the very beginning when you started the practice is, have your attention to the body, keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So when the craving starts playing its role, you forget that. Then you go behind the doctors, you go behind balms, you go behind many other things and try to remedy that. I'm not saying not to do that, but that's a sign of craving. But if possible, you can bear it up and observe that as well. If you observe the need to take an action for the feelings that you have, if it's a painful feeling, instead of getting rid of it, I observe this painful feeling. Instead of trying to get hold of pleasant feelings or trying to get it back. I'm just observing it when it is there. If you have that observation mentality, as Buddha said, keeping the mindfulness to the fore, then you will not try to get rid of it or acquire it or gain it or hold on to it. When it is there, you know that it is there. When it is not there, you know that it is not there. That's all what the Blessed One wants us to do. When that happens, we are directly tackling, we are directly managing, we are directly challenging the craving. So this is why this in the dependent origination, why craving is, why feelings is very important, and how our practice is handling feelings. And to handle feelings, Blessed One is very gradually bringing our attention. He is not directly taking us to the feeling. He is directly taking us to the contact, which is the cause of the feeling. And when you can have your attention to the contact, then naturally you will see, because of that contact, the feelings will arise. Because of the feelings, your mind will talk only about craving, because that has been our habit. That is why we are in the cycle of birth and death. That is why we are living. So we can see what we are when that is happening. So I have therefore selected this discourse because it is so rich in practicing Dhamma. The next one, B, the other point I want to take is the purpose of this discourse. The purpose of this discourse is, as it has very clearly mentioned, it says, a disciple who is mindful and clearly comprehending and with collected mind knows the feeling. So when this is happening, he knows that this is feeling. That's the first thing. When you are practicing, what happens is you know the feeling before doing anything else. And once you know the feeling, only you will have an opportunity to know that that there is an origin to it. But although I have clearly separated contact, feeling, and the craving, when you start your practice, you will not see that. When we ask you to give your report, you will not say, this is my contact, this is my feeling, this is my craving. You will straight away say, when I was able to walk so well, but all of a sudden, now my walking is so not nice. Or you will say, my walking is not so nice, so how do I make it better? What is going on with me? So you will directly talk only about craving. You will not talk about contact. You will not talk about feeling, because you can separate those things. So when you keep on doing the same thing and keep on providing the report, then because the teachers will encourage you to observe that instead of trying to get rid of it or hang on to it, then you will have the mentality to accept after some time that this is a feeling. And when you are able to know that it is a feeling, it is difficult, especially when it is painful. And it is hard when it is pleasant to hold on to it, right? But you keep on trying that because you don't complain about it. You don't identify yourself with it. You don't give a value to what is happening. You accept that the feeling, that feeling. Although I'm saying this in 2-3 sentences. And it may take time when you practice. And once you accept feelings as feelings, not 100%, with a bit of mind, right? That gives you the opportunity to see how it happens. I have met people, and they have been complaining that they can't especially while sitting, they can't bring their attention to the body because the body is so painful. So what I have told them was, initially I was trying them to take their attention to the breath for some time, but it was a failure. Then I told them, if the pain or painful feeling is prominent, gradually take your attention to the epicenter of that so-called feeling. And then he has, because it is there, he has tried to take his attention to the epicenter of the feeling. He says, when I try to reach there, it moves on to some other place. It's like, going to take a ball floating in the pool, floating on the water. When you try to take that, it moves like that. When you bring your attention to try to bring your attention to the epicenter of feeling, painful feeling, and that moves away, that disappears. And he says it pops up from some other place. Then he's trying to take his attention there. Then it disappears or moves and comes up from somewhere else. Right? So like that, when you go behind feelings, you will see this is how the feelings start. You can see the origin of feelings, and also for the same reason, you see the cessation of feeling. So and when you see this feeling origin and its cessation, the path where it leads to is very clear, right? Since you try to observe it and you know the path, you know what you are supposed to do, instead of complaining about it, or instead of identifying yourself with it, now you know the path of knowing, and as a result, you know where it leads to. It leads to not craving, not holding on to it. So therefore we call it the depreciation of craving. So when the craving depreciates in this manner, when the craving reduces in this manner, it is identified as attainment of Nibbana, or ultimate realization. So to attain Nibbana, or to go for the final realization in this manner, by depreciating craving, is very important junction of our existence. Because when you have feelings, you have therefore the opportunity either to go for craving on one hand, and on the other hand, go to Nibbana. So therefore the craving is very crucial point. Feelings is a very crucial point. It either continues your cycle of existence, or it depreciates craving and stops the cycle of existence. So that is why I selected this discourse, because although it is very small discourse, it's very rich in teaching, in explaining Buddha's teaching. And it's a very practical aspect of Buddha's teaching, because if someone is living, there is nobody who does not have feelings. Everyone is having feelings. So since we have feelings, either pleasant or unpleasant, if we bring our mindfulness, if we bring only the awareness to those feelings, instead of try to accumulate and hold onto pleasant feelings and destroy and demolish unpleasant feelings, that awareness itself will gradually depreciate. It will not happen overnight. More you do it, faster it will happen. It will gradually depreciate your craving, and as a result, your existence of this cycle of birth and death is challenged, is shattered. Right? So to do that, when you are mindful of feelings, maybe your physical manifestations, you are not worried about physical manifestations anymore. You will be simply observing them, but it will bring out, as I said, this is the gateway to the mind. So to depreciate the craving in full, you will have to go inside and see whether there is anything else. So when you are mindful of your feelings, it opens up the door for you to see how this craving was motivated, how this craving was fertilized, how this craving was supported. So our cravings are supported by the obsessions in our mind. The obsessions in our mind are, or either the obsessions or mental corruptions we have in our mind. The mental corruptions we have in our mind are, we have huge tendency towards lust, and we have huge tendency towards resentment, for reaction or aggression, right? So those things will come up when you just accept the feelings as feelings, because feelings are fueled, energized by these mental factors, mental corruptions of lust and mental corruptions of aggression. We call it hatred, right? So when you observe feeling, and if you feel that you are more lustful than you have ever been in your life, and if you see that you are that there's a murder within you, and you will definitely label it as you are going back in your practice. And in fact, what happens there is not that you are going back in practice. What actually happens is, that is the certificate to say that you are going beyond feeling. Because now you are tapping the layer of the energy that energized feeling. The feelings were energized by the contact. So you have come from those contacts and the physical manifestations to the feelings, and you have now gone beyond feelings. When you go beyond feelings, you will see these mental qualities that you have within you, which are this lust and hatred, right? So therefore, when you feel, when you see, when you observe that your mind is filled with so much of lust or so much of hatred, don't take it as a step backward. If you do it on your own, without discussion, without a teacher, you will definitely frustrate. You will create unnecessary stress. You will create unnecessary tension. Therefore, the Blessed One has said, if you practice, it is extremely important, imperative, that you have a noble friend to discuss your practice. And it should be a noble friend, not someone that you meet in the coffee shop. Someone who is practicing and has practiced to a certain extent and are able to help. There are a lot of people who practice, and they are practicing different techniques. And if you talk about your technique to the other person, and if he's not doing that, he will say, okay, this is rubbish, you do this. Person should be able to understand the stage where you are in. So therefore, in this practice, since we are going into deeper layers of the mind, we must have a noble friend to talk about your practice. So this is why we had in the afternoon a discussion session, It gives you an opportunity for you to understand, for you to discuss what is happening, and then understand the basis and the process of your practice. So this is why the Lord Buddha said that one hardly hears this word mindfulness, because people don't want to do that, because it is going so much deep layers into the mind, and people don't want to see the mind. They want to just see whatever the eye can see, hear whatever the ear can hear. They want to just stay with the sense faculties and have the sensual enjoyment. So this is why a lot of people, instead of coming into the retreat, they go on holidays, right? So therefore, this what is fueled by what is not a question for them. So therefore, they don't want to hear the word mindfulness. So it's very hard, very rare for someone to hear the word mindfulness, and not only just hear it, actually trying to practice it. So to make the most of this rare opportunity, the Blessed One said, unless you make the most of this rare opportunity of hearing mindfulness and putting into practice and continuing it, you will be wasting your time. So the Blessed One said, rare is the birth of a Buddha. Rare is the human birth. Human birth is very rare. Rare is their meeting. You may be born as a human, but if Buddha's teaching is not there, there is no point having human birth. There are so many time periods where there is no Buddha's teaching available. So now we are in a very fortunate situation. Buddha's teaching is there, and there are those who practice, and we have become a human being, and not only a human being. Even when we can go on a picnic, we are now hearing that there is something like this, and we are actually practicing it. The meeting has happened. And rare is the seclusion. What you have done today is a seclusion from all those sensual enjoyment, sensual indulgence, and you have secluded yourself from it. And you have all these rare things that you have done. You have taken the combination. So I wish you may have the strong faith, energy, mindfulness, and concentration and wisdom to make the most of this rare opportunity, thrive in the noble path of Buddha, and give, empower yourself to empower the humanity. May you be blessed with the triple gem, blessings of the noble triple gem. Thiruvan Saranai.